The Four Arts of Music. An Introduction to the Work of Forrest Kinney. Part 1. The Art of Arranging. Hi, I'm Forrest Kinney. Thank you for joining me. Creativity has been my passion in life. I find it to be incredibly enjoyable and incredibly meaningful. My other main interest has been helping people create music at a piano. So over the past 25 years, I've been creating books and more books about what I call the four arts of music. And these are basically four different ways of being creative in the field of music. So in this first video, I'd like to talk about the art of arranging, which I consider to be the most practical of musical arts. I begin by briefly explaining what arranging is, and then how you can use my books to learn and to teach this art. The ability to understand chords and make arrangements and make accompaniments opens up a wide range of useful and enjoyable activities at the piano. For example, you can play popular music, or you can almost turn any kind of music into piano music. You can write and perform songs. You can memorize classical music more easily. I mean, the list goes on. It also opens up a lot of possibilities to find work as a musician. Now, speaking from my years of personal experience, you can play at wedding receptions, holiday parties, and other special events. You can work confidently in churches and praise bands, even when you're just handed a piece of paper with a few chord symbols and there are no notes in sight. You can work on cruise ships in a variety of capacities. You can perhaps live your lifelong dream of writing and performing songs. Or you can play music with other human beings, whether this be accompanying singers, playing in a stage band, or something else. So what is the art of arranging? Arranging begins with a known melody. And that's one of the ways it's different from the art of improvising. Arranging basically means providing a setting for that melody by using our knowledge of harmony. Or would this melody sound better in this kind of environment? Or perhaps this. So though it begins with a melody, arranging is really about harmony, about chords and how to change them in a variety of ways. There are three main techniques that arrangers use to change chords. I can explain them briefly by saying that the ways we change a chord are like the ways we change our hair, something most of us have to deal with every morning and throughout the day. So what can we do to change the look of our hair? The first thing we can do is style it in a wide variety of ways. Styling our hair could mean that we cut it, curl it, or braid it. I mean, there's so many ways to style hair. In a similar way, arrangers style chords. So instead of playing a G chord like it's written in a music theory book, we could play it like Mozart often played chords. Or we could play it in a simple ragtime style. Or perhaps a harder ragtime style. Or a boogie-woogie style. Or many, many other ways. Besides styling, the next thing we can do with hair and chords is coloring. Here we see the same hair with different coloring added. Likewise, when arranging, instead of playing the G chord like this, we could add color tones to it. For example, by adding the note a second above the root, we can change the flavor of that chord, but it's still basically a G chord. Likewise, we can add a seventh of the chord to make it sound more tense and restless, or a different kind of seventh. We can even add many colors at once. But that's still basically a G chord. Now, in addition to styling and coloring, there's a third technique done by both hairstylists and arrangers. Here we see J.S. Bach. He's wearing a wig. That is, he has substituted hair for his own hair. If Bach had been magically transported to the 19th century, He may have wanted a wig more in the style of Franz Liszt to not stand out so much. In the same sort of way, arrangers can substitute chords for the usual ones. So instead of playing a G chord, we could often substitute an E minor chord because it has two notes in common and often can work with a melody. Likewise, we could play a B minor chord because that also has two notes in common with G. Substituting is different from merely changing the color of a chord because substitute chords have different bass notes, and often a major chord will become a minor chord, or vice versa. Of course, these three main techniques, styling, coloring, and subbing, can be combined in endless ways. Here, each girl is wearing hair substitutes that each has a different color and a different style. So, instead of playing a G chord like this, an arranger might substitute an E minor chord and then add a seventh for color to soften and sweeten the harshness of that minor sound, and then change the style of the chord to make it sound more flowing. So all three basic techniques were used at once. Once you understand how to arrange, you are able to look at a chord on a lead sheet or on a lyric sheet or even in a score and be able to change it and play it in other ways that are more satisfying. So how do we learn about the most commonly used chords and how to vary them using these basic techniques? I looked for materials that taught arranging at the piano in an artistic way, but they were too theoretical or clearly not written by a pianist or clearly not written by a music educator. So I created some based on my many years of experience with both arranging and teaching. In the next video, I introduce a new series called Puzzle Play that will eventually have 6 books, but at the time I'm making this video, I'm finishing book 2. That book will probably be born sometime in mid-2018. In brief, Puzzle Play teaches the art of arranging in a step-by-step way, just as this drawing shows how a rose can be drawn in a step-by-step way. The prep book can be used by beginners to develop their ability to play some basic tunes and develop their ears and prepare them for actual arranging. Book 1 has 2 parts. Book 1A is all about solo playing, while Book 1B is all about making accompaniments so you can play music with others. Book 1A begins right away teaching the 3 main techniques of arranging, and then explores inversions and how to arrange in simple classical styles and ragtime and boogie-woogie styles. Book 1B teaches how to do all this while making full-sounding accompaniments. You can learn much more about this series in the next video. Then there is Chord Play, published by the Royal Conservatory of Music. This is a complete 5-book series, exploring the 25 most commonly used chords, from triads to 13th chords. It's filled with hundreds of sample arrangements that illustrate various arranging techniques. This series is more suited to players with some experience at the piano. It offers an encyclopedic overview in 320 pages, whereas Puzzle Play starts at the very beginning and proceeds in a much slower step-by-step way. More details about this series in the 3rd video. And finally, there is my collection of 88 birthday variations, 88 different pieces that are all arrangements of Happy Birthday in different musical styles. I consider this book to not only be fun, but an advanced study in the art of arranging. I consider it to be the final book in the Chord Play and the Puzzle Play series. You can learn more about this in the 4th video in this series. I hope you've enjoyed this exploration of the art of arranging, and I hope you have a better idea of how to learn it and how to teach it. You can get all the materials I've mentioned in this video on my website, www.forrestkinney.com. If you ever want to reach me, ask questions, make comments, you can write me at forrestkinney@yahoo.com. Thank you, and enjoy creating.